everyone, welcome back to my channel Sparkle English, where I help you improve your English skills. In today's lesson, we're going to cover 3 essential comma rules. So these 3 comma rules will help you avoid common mistakes and help you write more clearly in English. There are many different comma rules, and it can be overwhelming to learn them all at once. So in this lesson, we're going to cover the 3 essential comma rules that you must know before trying to learn the other rules. So rule number 1 is that you must use a comma after an introductory word, phrase, or clause. So first let's look at introductory words. An introductory word is a single word at the beginning of a sentence, and it often introduces the independent clause. So these words are often adverbs, interjections, or transitional words. Let's look at some examples. Honestly, comma, I don't think Doug is a kind man. Yes, comma, Bethany will be at the party tonight. We also use a comma after an introductory phrase. And an introductory phrase is a group of words that doesn't contain both a subject and a verb. It's not a complete sentence, but it gives information like when, where, how, or why something happens. For example, after dinner, comma, we went to the cinema. In the morning, comma, you have a dentist appointment. Now, if this phrase, after dinner, came after the independent clause, we would not use a comma. We went to the cinema after dinner. You have a dentist appointment in the morning. But if the phrase comes before the independent clause, we must have a comma after it. And the last part of the first rule is we use a comma after an introductory clause. Now, an introductory clause has a subject and a verb, but it cannot stand alone. For example, this here is a dependent clause. If I get the promotion, comma, I will buy a new car. This clause contains a subject and a verb, but it cannot stand alone. Here's another example. Even though it was raining, comma, the children played outside for hours. Once again, if these clauses came after the independent clause, we would not use a comma. But because they come before the independent clause, we do use a comma. So that is the first rule that you must know. We use commas after introductory words, phrases, and clauses that introduce or present the independent clause. So now let's go on to rule number 2. So in rule number 2, we must use commas to separate items in a list of 3 or more things. Let's take a look at this sentence example. I'm bringing a cheese plate and fresh bread to the party. Here we do not use a comma because this is a list of 2 things, a cheese plate and fresh bread, so no comma is used. But let's look at an example of a list of 4 things. I'm bringing a salad, comma, a cheese plate, comma, fresh bread, comma, and an apple pie to the dinner party. Here we have a list of 4 items, so we add a comma after each item, including the comma before and. Now this comma is known as the Oxford comma, and this is more commonly used in North America. Even though it's called the Oxford comma, it's not typically used in England or the UK. So in that case, this would be correct in the UK, and the comma would not be used. If you choose to use the Oxford comma, it's important to have consistency in your writing. And if you're writing an essay or doing a school project, just make sure to ask your teacher so you can follow the appropriate style guide and whether or not they want you to use the Oxford comma. So a lot of people think that the Oxford comma is not necessary, but I would like to show you an example of when it is necessary or why some people like to use it. Let's look at this sentence. My manager invited her parents, Dave and Carol, to the conference. So in this example, we have not used the Oxford comma. And because of that, it seems as though my manager is only inviting two people, her parents, and their names are Dave and Carol. Written like that, her parents introduces these names, Dave and Carol. So it's just not clear if we're talking about two people or four people. However, with the Oxford comma, my manager invited her parents, comma, Dave, comma, and Carol to the conference. It's clear that my manager is inviting her parents and Dave and Carol. So some people prefer to use the Oxford comma for clarity, just to make it very clear that we're talking about three different things or three different people, etc. Now, before we go on to rule number 3, if you're looking to improve your punctuation, you can order my 16 Basic Punctuation Rules ebook, which I've linked you to in the description below. It's available only as an ebook, which you can download and view immediately, and contains over 50 pages with punctuation rules and exercises to help you. Purchasing the ebook also helps support this channel. So let's go on to rule number 3. So rule number 3 is that you must use a comma before a coordinating conjunction when you're joining two independent clauses. A quick way to remember the coordinating conjunctions is with this term FANBOYS: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So for example, Dad wanted to go fishing, comma, so we packed up his truck early this morning. Here we have two independent clauses. Dad wanted to go fishing and we packed up his truck early this morning. Because both of these independent clauses can stand alone as sentences, we must add a comma before the coordinating conjunction, because a coordinating conjunction is not strong enough alone to join two independent clauses. Here's another example. The deadline was tight, comma, but we managed to finish the report on time. Once again, two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction, so we use a comma before it. Let's look at another example. Sarah called her mom, comma, and they talked for an hour. Now here's an example of when we do not use a comma. I wanted to call Jessica, but forgot my phone. Here we don't use a comma because forgot my phone is not an independent clause. An independent clause contains both a subject and a verb, and here we only have the verb forgot. The subject is on the other side, I forgot my phone. So we only use a comma before a coordinating conjunction when it's combining two independent clauses. Okay? So now it's time for our quiz. This is a short 6-question quiz, so you must identify any comma errors in the following 6 sentences. Number 1. After the long practice, the team finally took a break. Number 2. The kids need paint, paper, and paintbrushes. Number 3. James arrived early and helped set up the chairs. Number 4. To be honest, I didn't study for my Spanish quiz. Number 5. The girls wanted pizza but didn't have any money. And finally, number 6. When Jane finishes work, she'll meet us at the gallery. Okay, so number 1 is incorrect. We're missing a comma after practice. After the long practice, comma, the team finally took a break. After the long practice is an introductory phrase that introduces this independent clause. So we must have a comma after it. Number 2 is incorrect. We have a comma here after and, which is incorrect. We only add commas after the items in the list before the coordinating conjunction. So the kids need paint, comma, paper, comma, and paintbrushes. This comma here after paper is the Oxford comma, so it is optional. Number 3 is also incorrect. James arrived early, comma, and helped set up the chairs. This comma is incorrect. We don't use a comma in this sentence, and that's because helped set up the chairs is not an independent clause because there is no subject before the verb. And we only place a comma before the coordinating conjunction in between two independent clauses. Number 4 is correct. To be honest, comma, I didn't study for my Spanish quiz. To be honest is an introductory phrase introducing the main clause. Number 5 is also correct. We don't have a comma here because didn't have any money is not an independent clause. And finally, number 6 is incorrect. We are missing a comma. When Jane finishes work, comma, she'll meet us at the gallery. Here we have an introductory clause or a dependent clause that comes before the independent clause, so we must have a comma after it. So let me know in the comment section how many you got correct out of 6, and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more lessons like this one. If you need more help with commas, I have many other comma lessons that you can check out on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next lesson.